Hey, what's up guys? This is TBone here. So we're playing auto chess here, and this is one of the more recent games I played, and I wanted to talk about this. I thought that this actually shows a pretty good way to set up a relatively basic composition that involves warriors and hunters. And so I wanted to give this replay and talk about sort of my decisions and what why I picked the units I did and how I played them, so that hopefully this helps you as well. So I typically actually have found a lot of success when I start with Tusk Champion. That is actually my favorite card to start with. Out of all the units, I actually would pick him first. Because it gives me a lot of flexibility. I can go into a warriors composition by round 4 if I can find 2 other warriors, or I can look for a more of a beast type composition. And here I did find 2 warriors there with the red axe and also the stone spirit. So I decided to just go for them. I also thought about getting the Icarus's Ranger. Now I also take a look at my opponents there just to kind of see what kind of units they picked up. It's just so I have an idea what I'm competing against. And I did see that there's a couple of players that have already picked up God of War for Divinity, and those are typically sort of compositions that could go into mages, and that is one that I have to sort of think about early. And now, so in the first few rounds, there's always sort of various different. This is really where you're going to just try to get an idea and a feel for what you want, but you're not going to be able to really make up your decision on what you want to do. So in this particular round, I took a look at what's available and I picked up the Water Spirit. The reason I thought about doing that was simply because the Spirit bonus can help out in early rounds where you can actually turn your opponent's pieces into stone, and that can give you some time to then take out the opponent. And so this is still early, so I just picked up a 2-cost unit just in case I don't get anything good over the next few rounds. I was going to put him in there. But then I ended up picking up the Swordman. And so I thought about it, and I considered actually just, selling the Water Spirit. And then I also sold the Shining Archer, which is a hunter type. And so what I ended up deciding to do was to move into the Warriors build with the Cave Clan bonus. So the Cave Clan bonus gives you additional health boost. So on top of the Warrior bonus, which gives you the armor, you also get the bonus from the Cave Clan, which then gives you additional health. And so in many situations, unless you're facing against a team on round 4 that already has a few 2 stars, you're generally going to fare relatively okay. And with a Swordman, it's also an advantage because of the damage that you're going to get when his ability is activated. And so you can sort of see with the warriors, it's also relatively easy to just kind of play at the front, at sort of the front line. I typically like to go a little bit off center, just to sort of make it so that it's easier to deal with. Me personally, I think that it's a little bit easier to deal with the various sort of positions that people can have, and I like to offset to the left side. Just because a lot of players, they usually would have their teams on the opposite corner on the top right there, but sometimes they do sort of switch sides, and those are typically the sides that would be a little bit more surprising for me, and I find that just offsetting a little bit usually helps a lot. So now we can see here is already a mage composition, but generally in very early rounds, a 3 mage composition isn't going to be that strong, especially with the recent nerf. And so with my team here, I was able to deal with it just fine. So with the 4-team composition, I brought in the Shining Archer, and then now I also do have my Stone Spirit at a 2-star. And so I decided to bring him back in, and I took down the Tusk Champion just because he wasn't really doing anything else to help the team. Now, here's an interesting thing I did where I bought an Evil Knight. The reason I did that was because it had the Icarus's bonus. So paired with my Icarus's Ranger, it would also basically reduce the total armor on my opponents. And so that's the reason why I bought him, so that I could take advantage of my armor, and also reduce the opponent's armor so that my Aggressive Ranger could, take it down a little bit. Now, it's not really necessary. I think it's not necessarily the best, unit I could have put up there, but given what I had, that's kind of what I thought about. I also bought a Fallen Witcher there because Fallen Witcher as a three card unit can be pretty strong when he actually turns into his ultimate form. But at 1 star, he is a little bit squishy as well. So I bought him just in case. I don't have anything, as you can see here. Not really getting anything at the shop right now to really pair me up with anything. And so I was considering my options here. I am at 7 gold. I did consider to sell the Fallen Witcher so that I could actually bring my gold back up to 10. So one of the things that you're going to see in this video as well is this is going to be a very economy focused game where I actually am very patient with my gold, and I feel like that actually helped me really sort of win the game later on. And we're going to sort of see a lot of the decisions I've made throughout the video, at least sort of in my mind, always thinking about where I'm at and also how much economy I have at the moment. So we're in round 8. We're 1 away from actually leveling up to level 6. And so I decided to do a roll just to see if I can pair up anything or maybe pick up my 3rd Aggressive Ranger. I didn't get anything, but I did get a unicorn. So unicorns are one of those units where if you are using them if you're using her for your feathered or druid composition, she is always a really good card, to start with. Even in any other compositions that you're going after, if you can pick up a couple of unicorns and maybe a Whisper Seer, then you can actually earn some gold by leveling her. You only need 2 of her to level 3, and you can get 3 gold for the cost of 2. And now I have a I have to think about a little bit what I wanted to do here. And so we're in round 9. I went to level 6, and I thought about putting in my Fallen Witcher, and then I bought an Aggressive Ranger. But then I also thought about the fact that now I have a Hunter bonus. So I have the Skull Hunter, the Shining Archer, and also the Aggressive Ranger. So I thought that I would just go ahead and use my my Hunter along with my warriors there. But this actually is the round where it didn't go as well as I hoped. I did go up with a team that had a better makeup than I did, a 2-star Aggressive Ranger as well as a Pirate Captain. So it's a very similar makeup, and I ended up losing that round. But we kept our economy at 10, so there's a threshold. Every 10 is a threshold there, so it's 10, 20, 30, 40, etc. because you earn interest based on that. So now I picked up a Doom Arbiter. Now this is actually a really core unit for many of the warrior compositions. And so you can see I actually take down my Axe Chief, and then I put in the Doom Arbiter because I'm also getting I'm already getting the Cave Clan bonus by having my my Swordman as well as my Skull Hunter. So I don't actually need the Axe Chief in there, or the Red Axe Chief. And instead, by putting in Doom Arbiter in there, I'm getting a lot more damage output from that card. And also another thing that I do here is I always look for opportunities to build a mana item. And in this case, what you can see there is I built one that uses the Magicka. I forget the actual term there, but I'm looking to build the Orb of Refresh. And I can't remember the exact name of the item that's before that, but basically I don't use it and I save it for later. And you can see I ended up buying the Dwarf Hunter when I came across it, and I replaced my Shining Archer with the Dwarf Hunter. In comparison, when you compare the 2 units, the Dwarf Hunter actually generally outperforms the Shining Archer, but I kept her around in case I wanted to go with 6 Hunters. So at this point, by round 11, I am pretty committed to a Warrior Hunter build, Now, what I don't know is whether I wanted to go with six warriors, 3 hunters, or with 6 warriors and 3 hunters, or 6 hunters with 3 warriors and a utility card. So that is sort of the decision I haven't made just yet, but I'm keeping my options open. So here you can see I did end up upgrading my unicorn, and I was able to sell her a slot, and I kept my Whisper Seer just in case, you know, in case that I do get another unicorn or something. I'm at 29 gold right now, and here's another one I kept thinking about. I kept thinking, like, if I were to lose this round, then I would actually sell either the Whisper Seer or maybe even potentially the Tusk Champions, because I haven't found a pair for him up until this point, and if I wasn't going to get him, then I wasn't going to use him in my team. I was going to look for other cards, other units later on. I ended up losing here as well, and sort of I kind of go back and forth, so I never really went on a big winning streak. And so I decided to get rid of the Whisper Seer there so I can get my gold back up to 30, above 30, at 31 there. And now we're in round 13, and this is the round where you need to decide whether you're going to go to level 7 or not, because you're going to be leveling on curve. That means by spending 15 gold, you can get to level 7 without any overage. But the decision that you have to, the factors that you have to put into your decision making is whether or not you're on a win streak or a lose streak. And for me, I'm not in any sort of streak right now. And so for me, I could spend 15 to go to level 7, but while it could give me an advantage, I already felt like my team was potentially strong enough to hold off for the next couple of rounds. So I wasn't actually in any immediate sort of danger of losing a lot. And so I decided to try to go for more economy instead and go up to level 50, sort of 50 gold before I actually decide to invest. And now in this round, I ended up encountering, you know, a pair of werewolves, so I do decide to get that. And so this is where, you know, I sort of look at the board and sort of try to decide, do I need to clear the board? Because right now my bench is actually full. So that means I'm not going to have any room for any new units. And so I kind of just kept it as is right there because my team is still performing okay so far. And I think that a 2-star Stone Spirit is still better than a 1-star werewolf. So I'm kind of just keeping it on the bench for now. And in this round, we're up against Bob, and this was the same player that we faced up against earlier that had the early, you know, God Mage build. And right now he's got a couple of 2-stars, but my team was still able to just barely beat that team. So we were able to continue to stay, you know, relatively healthy. And we're starting to build up a little bit of a win streak going into the creep round in round 15. And so I did get Icarus Ranger to 2 stars, so that was really good. We're at 52 gold right now, so I just decided to wait until you know, round 17 before I actually decide to level up. And against the Wolfpack round, this is actually where I didn't actually do the right thing here. I should have focused on actually moving the units around a little bit. I don't have a 2-star. I don't have a lot of 2-star cards. And so even though I'm at level 6, level 7 would have really helped out. At level 6, I needed more 2-star cards in order to take on the Wolfpack better. But I underestimated the sort of the ability for the wolves to actually take down your units if you don't have enough 2-stars. So you can see here that despite the best effort of my team here, I actually don't end up defeating the wolves. I ended up only losing to one of them, but I still lost some health there, and that's just something to really think about. But I did get the things that I needed to get dropped, and that was the mask. So if I could actually get the Frantic Mask. Now Frantic Masks are good for Icarus Ranger in the Hunter build, and you're gonna see later I also put it on my Dwarf Sniper, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Now I also picked up a Abyssal Guard. And what I did here was I put in 5 gold to put in a little bit into the experience, and I did one single roll, hoping that I could get a pair. Maybe I could, get a. I was hoping to get the swordman so I can get him to 2-star, but I didn't. So, but what I did here, and you're gonna see this basically from this point forward, is I basically kept my economy at above 50 gold as much as I could. And I think this is really something that I usually fall under the trap for as well, and that is I sometimes get impatient with feeling the need to get my units to 2-star, and also to try and pair them up, or to find ways to get my units to 3-star, with that potential. And so I end up rolling down a lot in some of the games, and I end up losing a lot of my power to look for cards in the late game. And so this time around, what I ended up doing is I stayed really patient. And so I was really patient with looking for the units and slowly sort of building up the team here. And I knew that I was at 70 health, so I knew that I still had a lot of time before I needed to really be concerned. And I had the chance to really observe sort of the teams I'm facing against. And so we're up against another sort of mage and hunter player here, and we were up against sort of the very last unit. We're up against the Wind Ranger, and we just barely eked out a win right there. So that was really good. And so we were able to maintain our winning streak here. We are at 63 gold, and I pick up a second unit for my Skull Hunter so I can potentially get to 2-star. At this point, I actually have more 1-star cards in my 7 unit composition. But luckily for me, the hunter bonus, the 2 hunters that are really sort of helping me out are the Exorcist Ranger and also my Dwarf Sniper, and they've been really helpful. And also picking up the Doom Arbiter early on has been incredibly helpful. So that's why I say that it's actually a very core unit to a warrior build. So if you see Doom Arbiter, you definitely want to try and get him to help you out with your team composition. And so we end up losing to Thermite here, who had a knight and also the 2-star Health Knight and the 2-star Exorcist. I actually didn't quite know what his or her composition was there, but I knew that, okay, so there are still teams that are much stronger than I am. But again, I continue to just focus on keeping my gold at above 50. And now that I got a 2-star Red Axe Chief, I decided to put him on board, and then I put in the Shining Archer instead. I just felt that now that I could actually use my two Cave Clan bonus from the two warriors, I didn't think that the 1-star Red Axe Chief, so the 1-star Skull Hunter was really doing quite enough. And also, I wanted to have more of a range attack from my 3 hunters, and so that's what I did. And we're able to do pretty well in the next round, going again into a creep round. We're at 54 gold, still in really good position for me to level up to level 8. In a couple of rounds. And this is where you want to use your extra gold to really help you level. You want to always look for ways to level, and instead of rolling for units that you may not get. So if you end up rolling down when you don't need to, then you end up actually going into a situation where you don't have the economic power anymore to boost your team. And so at 23 out of 24, basically after this creep round, I will be going to level 8. So now I'm starting to think about, all right, what are the other units I need? And so looking at this composition here, I already have 4 out of, basically 4 out of 6 warriors there for the next bonus. And so I knew that I was going to go for 6 warriors. So instead of going for 6 hunters, I knew I wanted to go with 6 hunters. So I needed to go to level 9 as soon as I can in order to continue going with the 6 warrior and 3 hunter composition. And so this is where getting to the next level is really important. And so now here I have the option. I have the opportunity to actually go to 3-star with my Exorcist Ranger, and so I decided to do a quick roll, and I was rewarded for it. I did end up picking up my my werewolf, so I can get it to 2-star. But again, I kept it at above 50 for the same reason I've been talking about here. So like I didn't feel like I was in any immediate pressure to go down in health, and so I didn't feel the need to actually roll down. But instead, my goal is still trying to level up as quickly as possible so that I could just steamroll through my opponents. If you kind of look, I still have people who are in level 6 at round 21. And so me being at level 8 means that I'm going to be that much more, I'm going to be that much stronger against their team when I do meet up with them. And now that I got my Skull Hunter to level to 2-star, I bring him back in just because this is where I'm favoring damage at this point. And I do actually exchange my Stone Spirit, and I take him out and I put in the 2-star Abyssal Guard. So Abyssal Guard is good in the following way. If you're playing a hunter build, it's actually really good to use a card like the Abyssal Guard, because what he can do is he will actually reduce the armor of the opponent that he fights against. And when he does that, your hunters can then deal more damage against that unit. And the Dwarf Sniper, what he does is he would actually aim for the unit that has the least health. And so the combination of reducing the armor and also targeting the lowest health unit is a really good combination, sort of in this composition here. So I pick up a my second Doom here, and I'd also pick up a second Shining Archer for the possibility of going to 2-star for her as well. Now this point is also when I start boosting my hunters. So you can see that I actually crafted a Staff of Oblivion and put it on my Dwarf Sniper. And so what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to boost the burst damage of my hunter and my, basically my Dwarf Sniper and also my Exorcist Ranger as much as possible. Now, the item that I was mentioning earlier that I've been saving is actually called the Orb of Regen. That's the purple orb that you saw earlier. And the goal here is to create a orb of refresh and put it onto the hunter unit that I'm actually have been waiting for, and that is the Siren. So the Siren is a really good unit to put into a warrior hunter build, because of our ability to turn multiple units into stone. So we can have really good crowd control, and with Orb of Refresh, what that does is it will give her the ability to use her ability twice, so you can kind of keep your opponents turned to stone. And when your opponents are turned to stone, they actually will take more bonus melee damage, which your warriors are actually going to deal. So it's just a really good combination there. But up until this point, I have not yet found a Siren. I also haven't found a Pirate Captain, which is another unit I'm really looking for. So I have 5 out of 6 warriors right now, and I've been looking for a Pirate Captain and also a Soul Reaper. So I finally see the Soul Reaper here, and I also see the sort of potential for getting my Exorcist Ranger to 3-star. I see another one right there, and so I really think hard about what my options are. And I am at level 8 right now. I could have actually leveled up right there, but instead I decided to wait because I'm in the creep round. And so you can see I actually sold my Stone Spirit. Even though it's a 2-star, I knew that I wasn't going to use him anymore. And instead of just leveling up right away to level 9, I actually just waited because I didn't have enough to actually go to level 9 and keep my economy at above 50. Okay, and so I waited until the end of the creep round, and then that is when I invested my gold into leveling. So now I'm gonna go into level 9, and so at this point, I go to level 9, but I don't have my 6th warrior just yet. But I put in my Soul Reaper because now the Soul Reaper has given me a couple of couple of benefits. Number one, it allows me to have some heal to my warriors, and also the bonus from the Exorcist bonus for when you have two Exorcist units, so the Exorcist Ranger plus the Soul Reaper there, it also reduces the armor of your opponents. And so I knew that I'm facing another sort of warrior hunter build as well. And so this was the one that, this will give me an advantage. So the players that I've actually been paying attention to is Thermite and also Fun Master. These are the two units, two players I knew were playing similar compositions. One of them was also playing Feather. And so I was paying attention to them as well and thinking about how close we are in terms of our damage output. And so I find my second last Exorcist Ranger, I'm actually really close there. So things are looking good for me. And again, I start pumping more into my experience because I want to go to level 10. It's because I want to go to level 10 because I already have my my Exorcist bonus, and I knew that the Soul Reaper is going to stick around. And so I wanted to go to 10 as quickly as possible so that I could get my 6th warrior in as an option as well. But I'm always looking for more options as well. Even if you go with a 6th warrior at level 10, that doesn't mean you have to stay there. You could actually change it up and go with more hunters if that's necessary. So these are some of the things I've been thinking about. That's why I continue to keep my Shining Archer, even though it's still not 2-star and it's still taking up space. But I don't have a need to actually clear my bench right now. And so you can see what I'm doing here is I leave myself a little bit of gold to actually do the rolls. And I ended up getting a 3-star Exorcist Ranger here at round 28, which is really good. I also see my Pirate Captain plus a Dark Spirit. And so this is where I go below 50 gold for the first time in a long while. But this was actually a really good investment. And finally, I think at this point, I decided that I wasn't going to do 600 anymore. There was no more need or reason for me to keep the Shining Archer. I probably could have gotten rid of the Shining Archer much earlier, but my economy was just fine. I wasn't suffering without it. And so finally did sell it. And now I have the option for a 3-star Swordman. I'm still keeping hopes alive for a 3-star dwarf sniper, and I'm also just now looking to go to level 10 so I can bring in my Pirate Captain. Now I brought in the Dark Spirit for a particular reason, and that is I thought that I could use this the Dark Spirit to I can use his ability to really take down the health of a very tanky team. And that would be a if there was a player that was playing a knight team, like let's say a dragon knight or a knight glacier knight composition, then the dark knight would actually the dark spirit would actually come in really handy. But as you'll see in this video, it didn't actually end up being as important as I thought it was. So this ended up being a unit that just kind of wasted my gold. So you can see I also see a Dark Spear there, so I buy it for 5 gold. And I could have actually used that 5 to level up, but instead I bought the Dark Spirit. But it's always good to have options, and so I kept it around. And you can see here I start sort of evaluating, because I noticed that I actually lost to that player the previous round. So I kind of wanted to see what was different. What was different between our teams? And so I took a look, and I knew that I needed to get to level 10 so I can get my 6th warrior bonus, and I knew that was the reason I lost, because I didn't have enough of the armor there. And so after the creep round, after Thunderhide, I go ahead and I boost my Doom Arbiter, and then I go ahead and go to level 10. And so this is where I bring in the Pirate Captain, and you can immediately see that actually makes a big difference. And so this is where once you have warriors, it's it's a relatively easy positioning in order. Like you just put all of your warriors up at the top in the very front line, and I also pick up the Ghost Prophet, just because you know, the Ghost Prophet has the same class and race as the Soul Reaper. It's a legendary card, but it doesn't heal. But what it does is it basically does burst damage over time. And so I really just kind of consider maybe I could put that in instead of a 1-star Soul Reaper. And so I put in there, just kind of, you know, contemplate it. And you're gonna see later as well, items start becoming a sort of you know, you're gonna start getting a lot of items. And so I pick up my second Soul Reaper, and here is where things get really funny. I actually see a potential for a 2-star Berserker. And so I was thinking about it. I could actually use the Berserker in place of my my 2-star Red Axe Chief. But instead, I thought about it, and I decided that I actually wanted to try and get my Siren or my Soul Reaper because I wanted to roll. And so I did end up getting the Siren, so I didn't actually pick up the Berserker, but as it turns out, I probably could have gotten my Berserker to 3-star very easily, because as you'll see later in the rolls, I ended up finding him a lot. So it was just kind of one of those decisions where, you know, I wasn't really thinking about my warriors. I felt like my warriors were set. Instead, I wanted to get the utility units, and also making sure that I could get my Soul Reaper to 2-star. I wanted to try to get my I actually did want to get my Swordman to 3-star, and then now that I have my Siren in place, I didn't need the Skull Hunter anymore. And Venomancer was tempting, but I ended up not getting him. And then when I saw, I ended up skipping that. Soul Reaper. So pay attention here. This is going to come back and you know, be very important, because I actually do try to get a 3-star Soul Reaper. And you know, I didn't think about it at the time, but at this point, you know, I'm starting to have a pretty good composition, and we're in top 4 already, and I'm beating the teams fairly easily. Okay. And so now it just comes down to whether or not I'll be able to get the units I need. So I'm still looking for a 3-star, you know, a 3-star Dwarf Sniper. And I noticed that I start seeing a lot more Soul Reapers. So I decided, okay, let's go for it. And then this is where I also do some rolling. Now, if I had been rolling before and not having a good, if I didn't have a good economy, I would not have been able to do this easily. Right, so this is where keeping your economy constantly high is super important. Even if you are ahead, don't roll down just for the sake of rolling down, especially if your health, you know, is high. Unless there's a dire need for you to radically get upgrades or boosts, it's always better to try to get to a higher level, and also saving that gold so that you can power up a little bit. Okay, so now we're against the Fun Master, and this is a very close match there, but we ended up coming back, you know, we ended up winning there, and we're on a 13 win streak at this point, so we've been winning consistently. And so we're back up to 60, we're at, you know, Black Dragon King, and you can see another pair of Berserker here. So as I'm rolling, I'm looking for the Soul Reaper, and I see one. And you know, I'm getting close. So this is when I decided I was gonna go for the Soul Reaper, and then this is where I also think about, all right, what am I gonna do with my items? And so I considered putting the, you know, item on the Dark Spirit, but then I knew that I wasn't going to actually use him anymore. So instead, I decided to boost the damage output of my my Swordman, because I knew I was very close to getting him to 3-star. So this is where the items game is going to be very important as well, thinking about what units you're going to keep and what units you're going to boost up. And so here I have the 3-star Swordman, and I had just boosted him up, so that's really great. And then so I look at the items, and this is where I also have the Wraith Shard, which gives you additional attack speed. I put him in the center now so that I can take the brunt of the sort of the damage output there. And then there's another Soul Reaper, and I made a mistake of actually upgrading my Dark Spirit when I should have simply just sold them, because I knew I wasn't going to use it anymore. So you can see I never actually use it. So I dropped down to 46 gold here, but it wasn't a big deal. You know, I knew I wasn't going to roll down much further, and at this point really I don't really feel pressured to change my positioning. I think just having my my warriors right up top is good enough, and I've been beating the teams consistently, right? So until I stopped winning, I basically didn't really need to be concerned about the sort of the cards I have. And you can see we continue to see Berserker. This is when I noticed that, oh, I could have had a 3-star Berserker probably by this point. But at this point, this is where you see I start rolling down a little bit. I got the Tsunami Stalker, and I decided to at least keep her around because my Siren is still at 1 star. And she does have a single orb of regen there, and I finally decided to sell my Dark Spirit there. And you can see that, at 1 star the Siren is a little slow in getting her skill up there, but she's still been very helpful there. And so far my team is relatively strong already, even though I don't have a 2-star pirate captain. I don't have a 2-star Siren. I did end up picking up I actually ended up picking up the egg, and also got my pirate captain to 2-star there. So that was really good, and I pick up additional copies of the dwarf sniper, and so that now I know that I'm getting close. So I have an egg, and I thought about using the egg for when I come across another Soul Reaper, so I can get him to 3-star. No real reason. He's not a critical piece to this game, to my composition actually, but I just never had him at 3-star, and that's why I wanted to try to get that. And now that we're down to just the 2 of us, and there are just a ton of things that I got from from the player that just lost there, and so I decided to just kind of roll down and see what I can get. And so I keep rolling. This is where I basically use up most of my coins. And I waited until very, very late round, and I'm pretty well ahead, and I got the dwarf sniper. And this is where I thought, all right, well, this is the first it's sort of like a race, right? It's a race to see who can get to 3-star first, really. And you'll see here I end up creating Frantic Mask, and I put 2 of them onto the dwarf sniper. So this, even though it silences the dwarf sniper, what you can see here is with the other items I've put on him, he's got huge damage output. If you take a look at the DPS, my dwarf sniper is constantly hitting for over 5,000 damage per second. And so it is just an incredible unit to have at 3-star, and you don't actually need its ult. Right, you don't need its special ability, and what you want instead is for it to attack faster. And so you can see the damage per second there, which is incredible. And so the Tsunami Stalker is another unit where I thought it just wasn't as useful now that I have a potential for a 2-star Siren. And so I consider just removing it as well, so I can get more gold here. But I'm in a really good position, and we're up against Glacier Clan. And this is actually a round that I always have a hard time with the composition I go into. But I end up managing to win this round, and I pick up a lot of really good stuff. And here I pick up another Orb of Regen, and I just go ahead and build an Orb of Refresh. And that's because I saved my original Orb of Regen from way long ago. And now that I have all of these items, I start looking at anything that can give me more attack. I'm giving it to either I'm giving it to Doom Arbiter, I'm also giving it to my Swordman, and I'm also giving it to my 200s. And finally, I get my Siren to 2-star. And so now it's the only thing remaining is for me to try and look for another Soul Reaper. So I find an egg here, and I'm rolling down, I'm trying to find a Soul Reaper, I don't find it, so I get rid of my Tsunami Stalker, and I continue to roll down, but I couldn't find that last Soul Reaper. Remember that Soul Reaper that I actually skipped the first time when I wasn't thinking about it? Well, that is the one that could have given me the 3-star Soul Reaper. My opponent is, is actually not going to I'm defeating my opponent, and he's down to 5, so I knew that I had one more round, one more chance to try and find the Soul Reaper. And I continue to look, and you can see Berserker continues to pop up, and I don't see the Soul Reaper, so unfortunately couldn't get him to 3-star. But I have a super just strong team at this point, and then this is where I have all these items. I didn't even finish putting the items on my units, so I just decided to just put everything I could into any units that could that could need some mana, could use some protection. But I at this point my team is strong enough to be able to carry me, and I was able to actually defeat him really easily. So you can see this round, and you can see the orb refresh really coming into play here, where twice in a row my Siren was able to turn my opponents into stone. And so with this, we're able to capture a very convincing win. And so this is the Warrior Hunter team. It's there are a lot of variations, but this is one that gave me a lot of success. So hopefully this is helpful for you. Hope you enjoyed it, and give it a try and let me know how it works out for you. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.